Hello, Colby, Kansas. Hello, America. This is Justin Wieland at Seeking Context, speaking today with Jeff and Wayne Horlacher of Horlacher Jewelers in Colby, Kansas. And I want to thank both of you for taking the time to tell me about your family business, about the world of jewels and the world of diamonds. So thanks very much for being here today.
Happy to do it.
I wanted to start out by asking you, Jeff, you're running the store right now. What is Horlacher Jewelers for somebody that doesn't live in Colby or this part of the country? What can they expect to find when they walk through the door?
One thing we're proud of is that we really are jewelers, as our name implies. We do bench work. We repair jewelry. We make jewelry. So,
is that what the term bench work means?
Yes.
That
that we do repairs. And we also create jewelry. We're doing more and more custom work all the time. Mm-hmm. And that also influences jewelry we buy because we know we have to work on it. Hmm. So we're going to buy a well-manufactured piece because if something's going to fall apart, that's disappointing the customer. And it can also be frustrating to work on.
Right. But you don't have to have something custom made. You could come in the shop, and what kinds of jewelry could you buy here?
We try to be sort of a general store. Mm-hmm. So we have a full complement of course, bridal engagement rings and wedding bands. We have necklaces, earrings, bracelets, many things. We try to have things that are sparkly and pretty.
The whole gamut of sparkly and pretty things for your loved ones. This is a family business, and it's been in your family for quite a long time. I wondered, Wayne, if you could talk about the history of Horlacher Jewelers in your family.
Sure. You want to go clear back to my father before he started the business?
I guess, yeah. I'm interested in the origin story from where it began.
My father was born in Indiana and first came to Colby on New Year's Day of 1904, and he was born in 1898. So he was a really young man, and so he went to school here, grade school and high school. Then he went to Fort Collins, Colorado to college, and was in the student Army Corps, but then he was discharged because of some health problems. I don't know exactly what it was. And he came back to Colby then and had met my mother in high school. She was born here or out in the farm by Labant, Kansas. And so they got married in 1924. Before they got married, my grandfather Schrader, my mother's father, built the house that Jeff is living in now. And that's the house that they lived in their entire married life, my parents.
Wow.
And that's just 3 blocks from the store. So it was an easy walk, and Dad always walked down to the store, as Jeff does now. He lives in that house now. So when he came back, he and his father opened the Colby Mill and Elevator Company here in Colby, and they did that. They had a grain mill and ground flour, and sold Pride of the Plains flour, and also a regular elevator, you could say, 1920 style. Mm-hmm. And then he and his father were not doing so well, and so they sold the mill, and my dad went to St. Louis Watchmaking School in St. Louis, Missouri, and studied watch repair primarily.
This would have been in the 1920s?
Yes.
Okay.
And then when he finished there, that would have been in 1926. He graduated from that school and came back to Colby and got a job with Mr. Art Spalding here in Colby, who had a jewelry store on the corner just south of our present location. And so it's kind of an interesting story there. He came in and this Art Spaulding had a lot of watches for repair, and he was primarily a watch repairman. So he said, well, what one should I do first? And Art Spaulding says, well, it wouldn't make any difference. The ones that they're not done is the ones they'll come in for anyway. So he just sat down and decided which one he'd work on first. And then Art Spaulding went over and sat in his rocking chair and began to read the paper. Well, he obviously from that story was not really putting full 100% into the jewelry store. So he went into financial trouble and had a bankruptcy sale. And my father then went to that and purchased the store from him, all the inventory. His brother-in-law and father-in-law had a furniture store right across the street from where this store is now. And so my father rented the front corner of that for his jewelry store.
This is your father's brother-in-law?
No, father-in-law.
Okay. Oh, got it. His wife's parents owned a furniture store. Okay.
So he was in there from 1926 until about 1940, probably 1940. And then they needed the space, so he and my mother bought an empty lot around the corner on 4th Street, just half a block south and a half a block west of here, and built a building, 2 sides, one for the jewelry store and one for a rental. And so they were there through World War II. And then this location, which my father, when he was sitting at his watch repair bench across the street, would look over here and he'd say, that would be an ideal location for a jewelry store. And so when it was a doctor's office, and when the Dr. Eddie died, then this location came up for sale, and they bought it and then remodeled it, added on the back, make it a little bit bigger. And this is what Jeff calls our new store. We've been here since 1948.
Yes. So this is our new location.
Because the old location was your father's in-laws furniture store, and you were in the front of that at the start of it. Well, that's amazing. And so you, well, then I guess he opened in this location, and then how did he expand from there or continue from there?
Well, if you bring me into the picture after he's here, after I had graduated from Kansas State University, at that time Kansas State Agricultural College, KSAC. Anyway, I got my commission in the Army, and so was in the Army for my 2-year term of duty, and then went to Bradley University for their School of Horology. Horology is the science and art of timekeeping. So I went through that course of study at Bradley University, and came back then and joined my father as watch repairman. That's really the way most jewelers started in the business. If that was in your mind as a question to ask, they would learn how to repair watches, and then the owner would get old or die, or they would take it over that way, or they would open their own store. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way most jewelers in those days started. But for me, I knew my dad needed help, and so when I finished the study in horology from Bradley University, I came back here to Colby. Millie and I were married then. We married while I was in the Army, and so we came back and set up, built a home, and I was employed as a watch repairman for my father.
And Millie is here as part of our studio audience today. What year did you get married?
In 1953.
Still going strong.
Be 70 years next spring. So
A milestone. Jewels are an important thing to think about on a milestone birthday, aren't they?
certainly.
But I'm
Yes,
interrupting.
Dad,
Go.
you should think about buying Mom a diamond for the 70th anniversary.
Say that's a jolly idea.
Well, I want to get to I want to get back to thinking about questions like, what do you think about when you buy some, or when you have a special occasion? But before we get to there, I'm curious what happened after that. It seems like you had a family, and then that family became interested in the business. And how did Jeff get involved?
Well, Jeff was born while I was in the Army, and just about 2 weeks before I was discharged. So he was born in Bremerton, Washington Navy Hospital, because that was the closest place to where my anti-aircraft artillery battery was located. So he was not a native Kansan, but we came back to Colby and lived in an apartment that belonged to my aunt for a couple of years while we built our house here. And then, so Jeff grew up in Colby and went through grade school and high school and college at Kansas Wesleyan in Salina. And then, well, I'll let him tell about what his career has been. But anyway, I stayed working for my father until from 1955 until 1963. And in 1963, then I took over ownership of the store, and my dad retired. Retired is a term that's has some qualifying things about it. When we would want to take a trip or something, he would come down and run the store, and so that was really nice to have call on demand or ask on demand.
Kind of an emeritus position.
Right, exactly. That's the term that's best. So that was really nice, and so then after he retired, he and my mother traveled more and enjoyed that. And I typically had a lady employee that would be a sales clerk. While I was still working for Dad, my dad also had another watchmaker who worked for him for a year or two, and I think he had 3 different ones over a period of years. And then they left and started their own stores, and I think 2 of them were in Colorado, and I don't remember where the third one was, but
I think maybe the third one went to Garden City, because I talked to someone a while back that I think her father or someone had worked for Grandpa.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, the story's expanding. But yes, it's been a good business, and we've tried to run a legitimate business that had good quality merchandise and honest dealings. And I think we were able to keep that reputation. And Jeff has continued that too. So we're proud of having a store that has lasted. If a store would not stay in business for 95 years if they were pulling shady deals.
No, reputation matters.
Right, exactly.
Well, Jeff, how did your childhood evolve in a way that you ended up following in your father's footsteps?
It didn't. Well, no, that's an interesting question, because I never worked in the jewelry store growing up. And I went off to college, majored in psychology, and then got a graduate degree in psychology. And I was a clinical psychologist for 20 years.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
And,
I didn't do effective research.
And then Dad wanted to retire, and the state legislature had made some changes in the way that mental health care was delivered, and actually closed one of the state hospitals and dismissed many patients from the other remaining hospitals, not for medical reasons, but for administrative reasons. And I said, I don't want to be part of this. And they said, you have to, that's the way it is. And I said, no, I don't. And after a little bit of thought, I decided that I would come join Dad in the jewelry store, and I retired from my psychology career. And I was single, and if things didn't go well, I could eat beans. So,
And I think we should introduce someone who just came over. I don't think she's on camera. Can you come up? We've got Sadie is also a fixture in the store. If you come in here, you'll expect you can meet Sadie. What's her breed?
She is a red heeler, blue heeler mix.
Okay.
She's a wonderful greeter in the store. Very happy dog, and she even has her own business card.
Oh, well, we'll post that online after the interview. So what did you have to do to learn how to become a jeweler if you were starting from scratch?
I went to classes to learn how to, as we say, do bench work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to take those classes in Denver and commuted back and forth. I stayed in Denver during the week and came home on the weekends, and had excellent training there, and then a lot of practice hands-on at the bench, setting stones, sizing rings, doing repairs, just the whole gamut. And Sadie, we're talking now, so we can't play fetch. Okay, take it to Jim. No, and
she has a certain level of charm.
She does. And then we're part of RJO, which is Retail Jewelers Organization, and they have workshops that we can attend at the buying shows twice a year. And then there are some other workshops available also, and I've taken part in those, and also the Kansas Jewelers Association. I'm a past president of that, and we had workshops also that would help a great deal.
And so these training programs, I guess I was wondering this when you were describing your time of learning to repair watches. When you got back, were you prepared for the actual breadth of problems that you need to do on the bench?
There are always things different, and there are always challenges. As they say, like when you get a professional license, you have a license to learn. And I think that happens in any business. They say it takes 10,000 hours before you really get good at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And I found in most any profession that's true. It just takes a lot of time and energy, and you need to be careful that you're continuing to progress, not just getting 1 year of experience and repeating that 1 year all the time. You need to continue to grow. And that's certainly the way it's been in the jewelry business also. And there are always new products coming out, various techniques of doing things. You know, we still have an old electric welder in the back that Grandpa used. And, you know, now we're using a lot more of a torch, and laser welders have come about. And so that's a new part of our repair that's we're going to be making use of.
That's really cool. So I have a question for, well, I guess, is there more? I wanted to ask sort of the end of the story. When did you stop being an apprentice and take over, and when or have you, Wayne, retired?
2000 was the year that Jeff took ownership of the store, and I technically retired then. I still kept hanging around quite a bit, and since I was the primary watch or clock repairman, I would try to do some of that. As the inventory changed and the business changed, I became less and less of a salesperson, and Jeff is a good salesperson, and that's really where the business is.
It's in people.
Right. So, yes, he's taken over, and is really wonderful to have here in town to help take care of Melly and I. I used to say we are approaching middle age, but I can't say that anymore since I've turned 92 now. So
just solidly middle-aged.
So anyway, it's nice to have Jeff here and help us with lots of things, and we are more free to just be at home and be involved in other activities. So I guess just kind of slipped out. Some jewelers have told a story of when the father retired and left. The son or daughter that took over the store would change the locks on the door. Jeff has never changed the locks on me yet, so I can still come down and help if he needs me to do that.
That's great. Well, I have a question for either of you. Let's say a young man or woman walks through the front door. They've fallen in love. They're smitten. They're going to get down on one knee and pop the big question. How do you help them? What do you say to that person? How do they make the decision for picking or finding something that captures the heart of their love for their loved one in that little box? How do you approach that situation?
I like to say a lot of what I do is education. So and we're proud of knowing about diamonds here, and there's a lot of study that goes into it, and we can explain to the customer characteristics of a diamond and why does it sparkle. A lot of that is geometry of how the diamond is cut, and of course too, especially 95% of the diamonds mined are actually industrial diamonds. They're not gem quality. They're on a drill bit or a saw blade. And so those 5% that are gem quality, then we set them in a ring that's going to show off the diamond and symbolize their love together. And so they can learn about a diamond, and we say, buy the one that talks to you. And that seems silly because diamonds can't talk. But then they experience that and say, that's the one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one right there. So, and sometimes it's the shape, but it's almost like the diamond is indeed calling to them.
Really?
And that's fun to experience on either side of the counter. And it's a joyful part of that. This is a happy business, and it's fun to be a part of happy times in couples' lives.
Oh, that's really neat. What about when someone comes in with their grandmother's jewelry and they want to repurpose it for a new gift, a new occasion? Is that something that you can do here? And how do you think about that?
Yes, we actually do that frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes there was one couple that she wanted to use her grandmother's ring, and it was worn out in a lot of ways. But we were able to repair it. It was extensive repairs, but we were able to do it. And so that's what she wanted, was her grandmother's ring. And we were able to bring it back to life, so to speak. They were major, major repairs to be done to that. And then we had another similar situation, but this ring was really too worn out to really be brought back. But we were able to take that design and replicate it in an all new ring, but the exact same design.
Did you move like the diamond over? Or?
Yes, yeah. We kept the diamond. We keep all the stones, but we were able to make a new ring like the old one had been.
So the diamonds really don't wear out.
Right.
But everything else does or can.
Diamonds are hard and they can break, but they're not likely to scratch or, they're not going to be worn out. No.
Cool. I'm curious for either of you what the profession of a jeweler involves other than sales? I know that you travel a lot, you have to buy diamonds, and I'm curious how that may have evolved and changed over the 95 years that this store has been in your family's care.
I can kind of address that from the historic standpoint. When I was first here in the store with my father, the jewelry salesman would come around with cases of jewelry and show them, and we would buy them from their samples. Our primary company that we bought from was a diversified company. They handled almost everything that we do: watches and diamond rings and jewelry and things like silver flatware and giftware of different types. And so he would have all these samples with him, and we'd pick them out. Then it just fast forward to when Jeff mentioned RJO as the Retail Jewelers Organization. We joined that, and then they would have market, we would say, or shows twice a year. And Jeff still goes to those and has been a leader in trips to Antwerp to buy diamonds, for instance. But anyway, we would go to those shows, and we would be able to see the actual merchandise, talk to the people there, and place the orders, and then just order it. We wouldn't put them in a box and bring it home with us. Mm-hmm. The word gets around that that person's carrying jewelry, and Jeff says that's like putting a bullseye on your forehead,
right?
If they're doing that. So we would always make the selections, and then they would be shipped to the store. And then the traveling salesman is mostly out of the picture now. We still have one or two, maybe more than that. I'm not around enough to know exactly how many come in, but it's evolved over the years. And Jeff can tell you more about his involvement with not only trips overseas, but with the salesmen that do come in, or they order online or whatever. So.
Yeah, you told me about some of the trips you've taken, and I'm just curious, like, what's going on there? You're representing how many people, and what do you get to do when you go to Antwerp? And why is it in Antwerp as well? What's going on?
Antwerp is the diamond capital of the world, and it's still the trading capital. I think 85% of the world's diamonds pass through Antwerp.
Really?
Yes.
They're not mined there.
They're not mined there. And it used to be the major diamond cutting capital of the world, but now, like many things, the cutting has gone to countries where labor is cheaper. That doesn't mean it's any less skilled, however. I also got to go to a diamond cutting factory, they call it, in China. And those people are really good. Mm-hmm. It's very impressive how they can cut diamonds, and with the precision and skill. And I got to use a diamond cutting wheel, and the shop foreman there was helping me, and I put the stone, and he'd say, no, he could hear that the stone was not contacting the wheel the way it should. And pretty soon, all the employees near me were giggling at my inept efforts.
They had 10,000 hours.
Yes, they had 10,000 hours. And it's fascinating and fun to get to see that, and to appreciate how really skilled a stone cutter is.
So it's kind of important that your customers appreciate that it's not really a commodity.
Right. Gemstones are a lot of fun. And, Dad didn't tell me that color stones are color coordinated. They're color coded. Rubies are red. Who knew?
Through and through.
Yeah. So anyway, it's interesting. It's fun. It is complex. And to be a good jeweler, you have to know so much. You have to create jewelry and to work at the bench. you need to be somewhat of an artist to create a beautiful piece of jewelry. You need to understand physics and metallurgy, geology. Certain diamonds you can do a lot too. You can get them hot with a torch. Some stones you can't, and some stones you can break very easily, and that's disappointing and disheartening,
and probably costly.
Yes, you can make a very costly mistake at the bench. Yes.
Does your 20 years in the world of psychiatry help you as a salesman?
Well, not really, because it's two completely different sides of people. You know, I was a very good psychologist, and I'm proud of that. But as I say, this is the happy side of the street. And I didn't used to deal with people when they were happy.
Right.
So it's nice to be part of celebrations.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
You have you've designed some rings, and I think you designed a diamond as well. And I'm curious if you've, Wayne, also have designed some pieces. And how does that happen?
I did not. I would help a customer pick in a catalog or from our display, and I knew how a certain item of jewelry, to use a ring as a sample, could be changed if they picked a style that they liked. But it had maybe just a single diamond in the center and some side diamonds. And maybe if they wanted to enhance that center diamond by putting some other diamonds around it, it could have a different head put in with holding different number of stones. So there are a lot of alterations that we were able to help. But I'm not an artist myself, and would not call myself a designer at all. But Jeff and Nate, who works for Jeff as a bench jeweler, did a really interesting thing. You want to tell about that? Or do you want me to go ahead?
Well, I don't know what you're talking
Okay.
about yet. So,
besides Jeff and Jim, our two boys, we have a daughter, Jan, who is married, and her mother-in-law had a ring that they had bought. They were farmers, and they had a small oil well on there. And their first check from the oil well, they went and bought a diamond ring for his mother-in-law, for Jan's mother-in-law. So she wore that a while, and her husband is dead now, and she's 93 years old, so she's kind of looking at the end of life, and thought this was a special ring, and it had a story behind it. So she wanted us to design a ring that could be given to our daughter, or a necklace, excuse me, design a necklace that could be given to her that held all of the diamonds that were in this ring. And then when our daughter died, she had a single daughter and then two daughter-in-laws, and she wanted it so that that necklace could be taken apart and given to those three girls. And so Jeff and Nate designed a necklace to hold the diamonds that she had, and it could be taken apart and split up in three ways. So that was really an exciting project that was designed and built for a specific purpose.
Yeah. And now I want to be clear. I'm creative, but more with words. Nate is the artist, and he's really the designer.
He works for you.
Yes, and Nate Schwartz. And he does an excellent job with bringing a customer's ideas and thoughts to life, and working with the diamonds provided or colored stones or whatever they happen to have. And so that's again a new part of the business and a growing part. It's fun, but it also takes a lot of energy, you know. And you know, once in a while, things just aren't coming together, and sometimes when you try to force the creative process, then it goes in reverse.
Right.
And so you have to allow time and space and energy for that to happen.
And is that like he'll do sketches and then the customer will come back and you review them and they say, I like this, and then you change it?
Yes.
And it's all hand drawings until you agree on something?
Yes. It honestly just starts out with a pencil sketch. Yes. And then it can evolve, sometimes goes in a completely different way. And it's interesting. We build things that at least appear to be delicate. But as I say, we don't have many women out here that are China dolls and sit on the shelf. They are active and enjoy doing things. They want to be able to go hunting, riding four-wheelers, riding horses, whatever. We have people that are active. And so their jewelry needs to be able to stand up to that activity level.
Mm-hmm. Durable beauty.
Yes, durable beauty.
That's cool. Well, one of the durable rings that you've made is a motorcycle tread. I wondered, you showed me that the other day. I wonder if you can talk about how that came about. And it seems like that came out of your own mind.
Yes, it did. I have a motorcycle and I enjoy riding. And I thought, it'd be fun to have a ring with my tire tread on it. And so I called the company that makes some of our wedding bands. And I was talking to the sales lady, and I could tell she wasn't really getting what I was trying to convey. Mm-hmm. And she said, would you like to talk to our head designer? I said, yes, that'd be perfect. And so I talked to him, and he said, well, he rides motorcycles occasionally, and he goes with his friend. And I said, okay, your friend has a fast bike, so you're probably behind him. So when you come to a stoplight, go up behind and look at the rear tire, and that's what I want. Or just go to a motorcycle shop and look at the tread patterns. And he said, okay, I can do that. And he said, what tire do you have on your bike? And so that's what I had made. It's a Bridgestone BT 102.
This seems like a dangerous situation. If people are going to come in with their motorcycle tire, could you do a single run of or do you need to do 50 of these?
No, we could. We have the company make these for us, and mine was the first motorcycle tire, and now they have like 8 different brands and treads in their catalog.
And so the royalties you're getting from them are just
nothing
over the top. But this has been a successful. You've had some motorcycle ring sales.
Yes, we have, and it's been fun, and people enjoy that.
That's really cool. And you also talked about helping to design a new diamond cut, and I'm curious about that.
That was a serendipitous thing in Antwerp. I've been going to Antwerp since 2000 when I bought the store, and every time I go, I learn something new and get to do something. And we were shopping for diamonds, and princess cuts, square diamonds, were very popular at the time. But anytime something comes to a point, it can break, whether it's the tip of a sword or a corner on a diamond. Mm-hmm. And so they were talking to us, and we said, well, what do you have that's square-ish besides a princess cut? And the diamond dealer was getting a little bit frustrated, kind of, and he said, well, what do you want? And no one had ever asked us that before. So we were brainstorming, and there were 2 other jewelers and myself, and we were literally working on a desk blotter and making pencil sketches there and ideas, and pushing it back and forth between the jewelers and the diamond dealer. And he said, okay, I think I've got some ideas. I'll run this by my brother and come back and see me tomorrow. And we thought, why do you need to talk to your brother? Well, it turns out his brother is the head of their diamond cutting factory there in Antwerp. And so,
in Antwerp.
Yes. So what better person to ask, And so all week we came back every day and we tweaked this and kept working with it. And eventually It's a square diamond, but the corners are kind of beveled instead of coming to a point. And so it's much more secure setting. It's a stronger diamond, and it's just been a lot of fun.
That's cool. And so now that cut is just out in the world.
Yes.
Being at all, it's not like you can only get it here. Anyone can buy one of these Horlacher diamonds.
Well, no, there were only in the United States. It was really pretty much exclusive to our 3 stores.
Wow, that's a special diamond.
So, yes, it is a special diamond.
That's really cool. Can you talk a little bit more about I'm curious on the business side, when you're going over to Antwerp, but you explained one time that, well, you're buying in bulk. And to me, the idea of buying diamonds in bulk, I don't know if I even understand that. How many stores are you buying for? And like, how do you even predict what you need to buy?
Through experience, you get a little bit of a feel, an idea for what your demands are going to be. But it is a little bit of a roll of the dice also. and it can be scary because it's easy to spend a whole lot of money on a little bit that you can put in your pocket. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting too. Now, also buying in bulk, I've helped to lead the diamond buying trips over to Antwerp, and sometimes the whole group will go together and buy what we call a parcel. And that might be, I know one time we bought, I think it was 38 half-carat diamonds, all rounds, all half-carats. And so buying that many, we get a much better price.
But that's still a pretty big wire transfer.
Yes, it is. And that was something else that I learned is transferring money, wire transfer from Colby, Kansas to Antwerp. Mm-hmm. Most of our buying is through RJO, the buying co-op, and we can just write a check for, maybe 50 invoices or however many happen to be that month. And that's much more convenient. But I have had to learn about wire transfer of money too.
That's really cool. So there is a lot to being a jeweler. It's not you're not bored.
Right. And that's something that when I've done an exit interview with some of our employees, they have all said, I had no idea there was so much to learn. I guess you can say it's complicated, but it's also not. We're helping people celebrate joyful moments in life. But having product knowledge is so helpful to help educate the customer and help them understand more about what they're buying.
Mm-hmm. It must be very satisfying.
It is. It really is.
That's a lot of fun. You've got a picture of a bunch of diamonds up here, and I'm curious if you can talk about what's so interesting about this to you that a general person off the street might not realize. And you should probably just talk to the mic, even though it's behind
something
you.
Really special to me is these stones behind me are all diamonds. They're all colored diamonds. They're not white or clear diamonds, what we would call white diamonds. They still sparkle, but they have a vibrant color. These are more kind of pastel colors, but they're beautiful stones. And so you get the hardness and durability of a diamond, and it's a colored stone.
Right. So it looks like a ruby or an amethyst or a...
Yeah. And actually, the most rare diamond in the world is a deeply, fully saturated red diamond. Mm-hmm. And they typically would only mine about a dozen of those a year. And the Argyle mine where they were found is now closed.
So that's rare.
Yes. Yes.
That's really cool. And do you have any other things in your store that are very unique, like that somebody needs to buy now or it's not going to be here next year?
We try to have a lot of unique things. I like to have things that are unusual and interesting. And that's part of my personality. It's fun to have things that are a little bit different than what you're going to find anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And some of those are some of the colored stones that I've bought over the years. And I really enjoy green tourmaline. And some of the other stones are very durable, and you have all the colors of the rainbow and a wonderful palette to work from.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Well, I wanted to close with two questions, one for either of you. This will probably air right after Thanksgiving, right around Thanksgiving, but certainly during the holiday time frame. What do you have to be thankful for? And follow up of what's a Christmas or a New Year's wish?
Well, for me, I'm most thankful for my family and the opportunities that I've had to join my father and keep the business going and be a success at it and raise the family to be good citizens and so forth. So that's the primary thing.
You're a lucky man.
I am. That's right. We had 4 children. We lost one to a tragic accident in 1983, so we still have 3 surviving grandchildren, and now 4 great-grandchildren. So life goes on. And,
your life is full.
Yes. I don't know how much time I have left, but maybe 8 more years, and then I turn 100. Maybe not. Maybe 9. That I don't want to stretch it too far. A good friend of ours just turned 100 a few weeks ago, and so she's still active and has a good mind. So I think family and being in a community that is a growing, progressive community that can support a jewelry store, or in our case, 2 jewelry stores. Not our stores, but the town, and and people know us and know of our reputation, and that's really satisfying to have people know you and trust you and on the side doing business with you too.
It is a pretty good version of the American dream.
Yes, very definitely so.
Jeff?
I wish for the world that we can get along better, that we can learn to solve our differences without going to war or without bullying one another. And I hope that we can grow as a people, both in the United States and across the world, that we can get along better and enjoy one another's differences and celebrate those.
And come and buy things to celebrate with.
There you go.
Well, I think that's a great New Year's and holiday and a Christmas wish. Jeff and Wayne Horlacher, thank you so much for sharing your story and for telling me all about Horlacher Jewelers. I've had trouble this entire interview saying that word. And thanks, Sadie, for joining us. And we're going to close out from Colby, Kansas with Horlacher Jewelers.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Help us recall many happy times over the years. Thank you.
It's been an honor to speak with both of you. Thanks so much, Wayne. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Justin.